Hello, my name is Jim Bailey. I currently sit on the Redford Union School Board in Redford Township, Michigan. This video is produced by me without any sponsorship by the Redford Union School District. This video represents a basic philosophical difference where I believe the public has a right to know, where they need to have the opportunity to participate in their own government. Whether they do or not does not matter, but it is where they're given that opportunity. This video is composed of 3 parts. The introduction giving some background information, a question about how decisions are made in school districts and government in general, as indicated in this video, and the video recording of a meeting of the Bulman School Property Disposition Committee taped Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the possible sale of Redford Union School District property. The property is where Bulman Elementary School sat. The school was torn down in 2012. In the previous few years before the school was torn down, it housed about 400 students. The property is in the northern 1/3 of Redford Township. It's over 6 acres in size, undeveloped, vacant, zoned residential, and it's platted. According to the plat map, this parcel is composed of 2 city blocks. It was purchased by the school district in 1945 from B.E. Taylor, who was a local land developer. This is the same individual who made the Western Golf Course Enterprise, which is located a couple miles south of here. The property is bordered on the north by Puritan Street, on the south by Midland, on the west by Fox, and the east by Delaware. Delaware is a wider street that was able to accommodate school buses easier and connects with 5 Mile Road a few blocks south. The current value of this property is estimated to be about $500,000. In this video of the meeting, you're going to view something that raises questions as to who makes decisions in government. You'll witness a tactic used to allow decisions to be reserved in a governmental body, whether it's a school district or elsewhere, to a handful or less of people who make the same decisions year after year. In other words, you elect representatives, but your representation is not allowed because they are pushed off to the side so they can't effectively represent you. It is a slick use of a repertoire of tactics and techniques which keep certain minorities, religions, ethnicity out of the governmental decision-making process. Out of 500 school districts in the state of Michigan, even though the educational system has money thrown at it, you got to ask the question, why isn't the educational outcomes getting better? There's a reason. It's because it's institutionalized in the system so that a few make the decisions and the local community is not represented like it's supposed to be as written in the Constitution of the state. You ask yourself, how does this happen? As shown in the video, there's a technique called under the color of law. This is where something is made to look like the law is being followed, but in actuality it is not. As an example, if a police officer pulls over a woman driver in order to ask her out on a date, that is a misuse of official authority for personal gain. In another case, it's where you're told you're breaking the law, but you're not. Or it's a situation where the law really does not exist. In this case, at this meeting, I, Jim Bailey, a Redford Union School Board member, was asked to leave the meeting. The excuse used was that it violated the Michigan Open Meetings Act, with having more than 3 members of the governmental body at the meeting, which to them violated the law. In reality, looking at Michigan Attorney General's Dana Nessel's Open Meeting Act Handbook, page 8, it clearly states that more than a quorum can be in a room as long as the extra members do not deliberate.
I found out. There's 3 of the boards on this committee, so you can't participate.
Oh, yeah.
So we addressed this before, Dana Nussel, page 8 or 9 of the.
Okay, well, you can do whatever you want. We're not gonna do it at this committee meeting if you're present.
As long as I don't deliberate.
No, if you're present, there's a potential for it to seem like there was deliberations. So we don't hold committee meetings with more than 3 board members present. So respectfully, I'm asking you to leave. It is an open meeting. There's other members of the public, I think, that are outside that are more than welcome to attend. But because you hold an office as a board member in this district, you can't attend.
No, you're absolutely sure.
I'm telling you, you can't attend.
Okay.
In another part of the video, there are complaints by some, including a board member, that the meeting is being video recorded.
Tripod. He wants,
And that's his.
Oh, yeah, he needs to take that, he
Yeah.
needs to take that out. Because he's not, I'm not gonna allow that. This is a committee meeting.
Well, I don't even know if it started.
It is. It's recorded.
Yeah. If I have to cancel this meeting as the board president, I absolutely will.
Well, I'm gonna let the other people know they're welcome to attend.
Yeah, because it's an open meeting, but it's not an open meeting. It's not a regular meeting.
but no, I mean, Jason's right. I mean, if you talk to Trugler, Canfield, Art, Clark Hill, Constable, how the committees are always limited to 3
Yeah.
because perception is everything.
Mr. Bailey's argument is that as a citizen, he doesn't have to, his rights as a citizen supersede Open Meetings Act.
The
In spite of what,
official.
in spite of what our attorneys have
I
told
agree,
them, they
yep.
don't supersede Open Meetings Act. And he is the one who posted this meeting publicly without permission of this board.
We don't have. What are you supposed to be trouble for?
Yeah.
He had no right to post this meeting.
Well, we're not. What? When is that the regular?
I was just giving.
Things like that.
But
But for the purpose of seeing what we're discussing and things like that, certainly, and then afterwards, if you have things you want to talk to me about, I'm the superintendent, or you have questions, yeah.
In another part of the video, there are complaints by some, including a board member, that the meeting is being video recorded. Again, there's an undercurrent on the board of a feeling to keep the public uninformed. According to the Open Meetings Act, meetings are supposed to be open to the public, with some exceptions. It also states that these meetings can be recorded, videotaped, broadcast, etc. When you as the public allow these attempts to keep you in the dark so a handful or less people make all the decisions, they're not to blame. They're just taking advantage of an opportunity. It's you. You are the ones to blame for allowing this to happen. Now, I present you the meeting of the Bulman Property Disposition Committee, which was held Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, at the Keeler School Administration Conference Room at Keeler School.
Yeah, so I will just, I guess, kick things off. I'm Jason Witt, I'm the superintendent for Redford Union Schools. And I don't know what anybody was told about this meeting today, but it is a meeting open to the public, that's why we posted it. It's a committee meeting though, which means there's no more than 3 board members here. There happens to be exactly 3 board members. Ms. Evelyn Pridemore, Mr. Jeff Osowski, Ms. Rebecca Gray, and they're the 3 board members that are here. The reason it's limited to 3 board members in a committee setting is because we don't want it to appear in any way, shape, or form that there's somehow deliberations taking place or decisions are being made or anything else. So that's not the purpose of the meeting today. There is no section for public comment today. That would be at the typical board meetings when members of the public are afforded 2 different opportunities. One if it relates to an agenda item and one if it doesn't, for public comment. Our next board meeting is on September
Well,
12th.
Yes, yeah, whatever the second Monday is.
So,
One of those days, I just know the second Monday.
and that will be held at the high school in the media center. And I don't know for sure how much of, whether this will be a specific agenda item or not at that meeting, because we're just kicking off things with our committee today. But at some point, what's discussed here at the committee level will be reported out and discussed with the full Board of Education. And again, it's the preliminary stages of a consideration to talk about the potential disposition and potential redevelopment of the Bulman property, which has been vacant for some time now. But it is a school district property that we do own. And we are working with Plant Moran Cressa. They're our partner that was selected by the board at a formal action item to work with us through this process. And I will turn it over to Mr. Paul Wills, who's a partner with Plant Moran.
Thanks, Superintendent Wett and board members. Good evening. Community members, good evening. This is actually a follow-up from the presentation that was given, I think, in the June timeframe. Really just kind of frame what does that process look like for potential disposition. We know we've got several sites. Bulman is the one that's actually in the conversation piece today. With me, we've got Doug Smith is one of our vice presidents, Samantha Wild, one of our senior consultants. So the first couple slides, I just want to take the board back through kind of the steps, if you will. So again, there's no decision making tonight. We've done a lot of due diligence on the site. We've had a chance to meet with the township. So if you go to the first series of slides. So this is kind of the time frame. So again, what is the highest and best use? What is it currently zoned? What type of utilities are currently in play? What is the township's long-term master plan? So they have a current zoning, but what does that master plan look like going forward? The next steps is really identifying those potential partners. We've got a list of about 100 different developers that kind of specialize in single-family type homes. So we've done similar work with Livonia Schools, Farmington Schools, Detroit Schools, Southgate, Woodhaven, Brownstown, Grosse Seal, plus Grand Rapids, Lansing, others. So we always feel good about this process because we want to give the board as much information as possible before they make any final decisions. So board members tonight, no decisions, just hey, here's where we're at, the update, here's the overall process. Our thought is we are ready to go live with setting out the offer memorandum, which Samantha will go here through quickly. We anticipate that being on the street for about 45 to 60 days. We're asking those developers for financial backgrounds, like how financially strong are you? We know interest rates are up, but again, people are still developing. We just looked at an article where housing market is still smoking hot, which is awesome. We're also looking for proposed layouts. So what does that look like contextually with the surrounding neighborhoods? What type of elevations, floor plans, options? When we met with the township, they are really geared towards single family homes to kind of keep in that contextual infill. Because what comes with those houses? Kids and families. And so guess what? That's going to ultimately benefit Redford Union Schools. And at the end of October, we did come back and again work with the committee here. And again, we'll give you updates in September and into October. But really, you know, here's the 7 or 8 developers. Here's the initial offerings. Here's the number of units. Here's the pricing units. We again talked to the township about bringing them in as kind of a part of, does this really comply with what you want to go for? And then ultimately, November, board, here's option A or B, C, D, E. What say you? And then go into approval to enter into due diligence period, which would be 90 to 120 days with that selected developer. And again, there's clawbacks within the contract, which Samantha talked about, like how fast can you get houses built, how fast can you get site plan approval. So this is what we presented back in the June timeframe. We just want to kind of reiterate it and let you know we're targeting right here now to issue it. So Ms. Pragmore.
So we'll know the answers to those when those potential developers come forward. They'll be able to tell us how quickly, right, they can build the houses, how many houses, what they're going to look like,
floor plans,
what their price point is going to be. Because what my concern has been, one, that it does, I don't want it to be, I live in that neighborhood, I don't want 50 copycat houses that I have to look at every day. And I also, they need to look like our neighborhood, right? And I drive down Linden every day over where Livonia sold a piece of property, and those houses are starting in the low 400s. Well, those aren't $400,000 homes in that neighborhood.
Correct.
So we need to be, aware of those things in our neighborhood, what the going price is for a home.
No, and that's actually.
And so
yeah,
before we
these are
can make a
discussions we
decision,
had.
we have.
Township echoes that exactly.
Yes.
Like Plymouth, Crest, Redford Union, don't get me wrong, like, we love the high taxable houses, but again, that's not the contextualism with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So guess what? The list that we put together, you're not gonna see some developers that may be at that higher end. So again, what's the absorption rate? That's something that Samantha and Doug will work through with each of the proposals. The question is how fast to get foundations in the ground and get them built. Really, that's the question.
And sold.
And sold, correct.
Empty
Yep.
houses don't help us either.
Nope. So actually, one of the things you see in the analysis is what are current houses going for? What is property going for? So I think we actually talked in 2018-19, even before the bond, was like, what do you do with excess real estate? What are those ranges that we think? So we kind of confirmed some of that information as well. So long story short, we're right on schedule where we should be with a November presentation, ultimately a November, December selection of that development going forward. So next slide. So we're not going to go through all 29 pages of it, but at the end of the day, the 5 primary sections of this memo or offering memorandum is an executive summary, which again, Samantha go here high level, location, market information, and then just some of the transaction guidelines and proposal requirements. So with that, we're going to flip screens real quick. We're going to get into more of what that offering memorandum looks like, but the good news is the township and the district are lockstep with exactly what you said is we want some contextual houses. We don't want the same house 50 times, we want different contextualisms. Again, that'll be part of it, so Samantha.
So this is the offering memorandum that our team has put together for the Bulman site. Obviously just a map on the front cover, disclaimer, this is just language that we need in here. And then these are the 5 sections that Paul just mentioned. So this executive summary, this just gives a little bit of background on the seller, the offering, and then offering guidelines. Outlines the parcel here. And you feel free to stop me at any time. I'll just kind of go through this quickly. This is location information in the greater context of Metro Detroit. You can see a little key over there, close to Detroit, DTW, some of those location points. Here are some location highlights and surrounding amenities.
Hilbert being the most effective one for young families, so again,
It
that's,
doesn't say Evelyn Prygore's house on there.
we can actually put it on.
Subject property.
But again, you're looking at parks, you're looking at amenities, healthcare, things that families and developers should be looking at from that standpoint. So
Could we add delete fostering leadership academy?
we could do that.
Please.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Please.
And is there a way to make it known that Hilbert Middle School will eventually become an elementary school?
That's a great point. And that's why we stamped this all draft, because I think giving them the timelines could be very important too, because what we see is if I'm an interested buyer or developer and I know this is going to become a K-5, I'm going to be targeting that, and that's not necessarily middle school, high school.
demographic,
You got it.
yes.
Yep, okay.
So this is just a little bit more of the site. You can see the church there, and then Hilbert, obviously. This would probably be a good place to say that that will be becoming.
For the fall of 2020, like that'd be good.
So this is just some of the specific information, address, parcel number. We need to confirm the exact parcel number. Zoning, obviously it's zoned single family.
So it's interesting in conversations with the township, so we know it's a parcel owned by the district, but when you look at, there's actually 3 different parcels. So some of it's like easement abandonment, utility abandonment, consolidation of that. So again, that's some of that work of additional due diligence, like a survey. Do you let the developer consolidate the property into one parcel for tax purposes? It doesn't affect you one way or another because you're not a taxable entity. But to Samantha's point, it is really 3 major parcels. But at the end of the day, it's 9.31 acres. So Jeff, you had it? Oh, okay.
And here's that parcel description that Paul was just talking about.
So the 1940s layout, you could literally fit 80 units. But the new township zoning and future map is you're not looking at the 40 by 120, that's more like 50 to 60 wide. Again, not large lots like the Livonia example you picked on.
Yeah.
So these are not quarter acre lots,
But
but
they're still really, those houses are really close. The first 2 have gone up and like you can see in your neighbor's
bathroom. And again, that's why when we look at the proposal requests, we want to see what is that proposed layout. Are they offset? Are they flip flops?
And so, yeah, the new zoning allows for 67 homes on this 9.
So 67 potential families. So at 1.21 kids per household for the next 50 years.
And here you can see that kind of laid out there.
So again, as Samantha pointed out, this is all one R1 family, and this is what the township confirmed. And you'll see actually there's some guidelines for the developers to look at when they start doing their layouts with their civil engineering.
So here are some of
There you
those
go.
guidelines that Paul just mentioned. There's setback information, height, the max, caveat that with, that's the maximum amount would be 67, but it could be less than that. And then square foot per lot for the zoning code is 6,000.
So one thing the township is looking for is different housing types, so colonial, ranch. So again, more contextual of what's kind of around the surrounding area, not just cookie cutter, 67 exact same models kind of going forward.
We also looked at the wetlands. There are no wetlands on the site, so that's good.
The other thing we did talk about was infrastructure. So again, talking to the township, what type of site development, like on-site development is required for. So Wayne County's got a brand new wastewater drainage system requirements. So again, on-site before it gets discharged in the system, that's incorporated into those proposals as well.
So they would be required to fix, because I think you would hear from some of our community members that live on the back side, on the Fox side of that property, about the years of flooding issues that they've had, and the many times they've had their basements flooded.
Yeah, so the new requirements is it's on-site, 200 back-to-back, 100%. Yeah,
which we will in a public meeting, but.
100%. And again, that's part of that submittal, is like how do you address Wayne County Drain Commission requirements for 2022, not what they were for 1990, 1980s, et cetera, going forward. But
We'll have a complete site plan, kind of shows us what they're thinking in terms of layout, because obviously we want to make sure whatever they're proposing is going to be approvable at the township level. So we're not wasting your time, but yeah, I'm sure they'll have some stormwater requirements.
yeah, I think with Southgate specifically, like proposing residential developer there, actually, to Samantha's point, didn't max them out to 67 units, they had 49 units, but they had an on-site retention. So it kind of became a feature of the neighborhood, but more importantly, it also kept all the site water on the site. So nothing discharged. So again, those are just options that developers are going to come up with to comply with those state and local requirements.
This is just some market information. So we looked at a 1 mile radius, 2 mile radius, 5 mile radius, and then the state of Michigan as a whole. So we're about right on with the state, and then a little bit better than a 2 mile and 5 mile radius in terms of household incomes and housing values.
That's that housing value you talked about, so we're probably in the
232.
and so like call it the 195 to 225 range, not the 400,000. By the way, it's also not $50,000 homes either,
Right.
which we haven't seen in years.
No.
Again, keeping it contextual with the surrounding neighborhoods. So
No, we're just trying to paint a picture for someone to pick this up and look at it quickly, so they can get a snapshot of what you got here.
We looked at land sales in the area to come up with a potential range for this property.
Yep. And actually, if you recall, I think when we started talking about this maybe a year and a half ago, we thought, here's 9.31 acres. We actually did it for all the sites, right, for the district. So if you go to the next slide. Next slide. So again, we're looking at more of the conservative ratio. So you're kind of in that $400,000 to $500,000 range for a developer to say, I'm going to purchase this property for X. And for that, I'm going to build X amount of houses. So if that makes sense. So the district will get a deposit from that developer at the close of due diligence.
3 to 5% probably.
Yep. And so at the end of the day, I thought we originally said, you should expect between 300 and maybe 550,000 for those properties. Samantha and her team confirmed it. Like, we're probably in the 467 range. If you looked at it and said, hey, I don't really care about wastewater or stormwater, I want to maximize the sites, I want to increase the value of homes, you may get in the 575, but the good news is they've got a list of 100 developers that are interested in something like this property. So again, we're going to let the market dictate what that ultimate price is. We just want to kind of do a gut check. So if someone says, we think that property's worth $1 million, Samantha and her team kind of did, like, here's 10 different scenarios. We think it's in that $400,000 to $500,000 range, which again is what we talked about with the previous board presentations. So.
Then this next section just kind of goes through the transactional guidelines. So this outlines the process by which the developers will be submitting their proposals. And then on this next page are the actual transition guidelines. So objective in terms of purchase, and then this kind of lays out, so this is the company information, all the items that the developer would have to submit as background material for us. And then this is the proposed acquisition proposal. So that would be where you were talking about the site layouts, the different housing typologies.
Deposits of
density.
money, I mean, they actually put money, like here's our deposit to actually enter into a contract. We look at the due diligence period, some are actually able to get market quicker, so it might be 90 days. You know, you don't want to tie this property up for a year and then say, oh, okay. So again, that's part of that conversation piece of once you get those proposals, it's price, due diligence, deposits, et cetera. So
The objective is to try to make a market, so we've got 3 or 4 people to choose from, you know, a broad range of terms and conditions, and negotiate with them those that were, you know, we feel are most favorable, obviously. And obviously, we take a close look at the financial strength of the builder. You know, we could be headed into a recession. We don't want to transition the property to someone who can't get through the process or has unrealistic expectations with regards to what they can do in the township. So we have a lot of experience doing that, making sure that not only do we make a market, but that we actually get to closing and houses get built.
and we also ask for the references, like who's your peers? Like we want you to talk to Colleen or Burton over at Livonia, like, hey, innovative, how did they do? Well, guess what? They built $250,000 homes on the far end of the district. Great. Hey, so-and-so homes. So again, that's some of that requirements of how have they done this with other K-12 districts. Again, financial stability, I call it the architectural aesthetics that are going to be important to the community members, and
We could even tour current models.
100%. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, current developments.
That'd be ideal.
But again, Samantha's point, we're asking them, like, give us the different elevations that, you know, the district can choose from. Here's different floor plans, here's the price range, and make sure it complies with your goals and objectives, so.
And those are pretty thought through in those types of proposals. They'll give different typologies depending on what you guys are looking for. This
So
is
the next
just more of
45 pages. No, I'm sorry.
This is just more of the technicalities behind the zoning code. And that is it.
So again, no decisions needed tonight. This was simply an update to the real estate committee from the board's perspective of, we're ready to issue this. You know, I think when we did our first presentation, we were targeting a September 1 release. Well, congratulations, we're a little ahead of schedule. So we're going to take draft off it. We're going to send it to the 100+ developers, kind of, again, who specialize kind of in this built environment. And then again, we'll give you an update at the late September meeting of, hey, this is how many respondents we got back. Here's the time frame for receiving those, analyzing those, working back through the committee, and ultimately get in front of the board in that November time frame for a full presentation. So with that, we'll open up to questions at the...
And I just want to say, for the benefit of not only the board members, but the other people in the room, again, nothing is being decided here today.
Correct.
And the only thing that the board has approved so far is to go through a process and work, partner with Plant Moran in this process to see what the potential redevelopment ideas would be for that property. The board, that administration hasn't made a recommendation relative to the potential redevelopment of the property. The board hasn't considered anything or committed to redevelopment of the property. It's simply in the exploration stages to see, since we've had a vacant property for so long, and since we are, through our bond construction project and that related work that's ongoing and we're completing this summer, and the next few summers, we are really intentionally looking at our district footprint to make sure that that footprint matches what our anticipated enrollment is going forward, and allowing us to make our facilities as nice as possible for every student we have in our district, to remain attractive not only to our residents, students, but also schools of choice students, because that's a reality now for all K-12 districts. But at the same time, we're doing all that work and looking at our footprint. We've had this vacant parcel of property for quite a while. At one point in time, there were ideas that potentially that was going to be a site, could potentially be a site for a facility that right now, quite honestly, based on our enrollment trends, we probably wouldn't need, nor do we have the dollars bond-wise to build the size of facility on that site that it would take, and was maybe first mentioned as being for that site. So this is just an act of the district administration in combination with the board to do our due diligence to see what development options are there for property that we as a district hold, understanding that we're one of the last few property holders of undeveloped property in especially our portion, our district portion of Redford Township, and then provide that information through this committee approach and then ultimately to the full board at a public meeting. And just like this is an open meeting, any other committee meetings will certainly be open to the public as well. And I just wanted to say that for the benefit of everybody in attendance. And if you are a member of the public that would like a copy of this presentation, I can make sure to send that to you if before you leave, you leave your name and your email on that sheet of paper right now.
So I'll just reiterate what Mr. Witt said. I don't know, most of you, some of you know me, some of you don't. I am the board president. I also live in that area. I literally overlook the Bulman lot from my upstairs bathroom. So, the last time we had a building there, my 22-year-old son, who just entered his 5th year of college, was in 5th grade. That's how long it's been. So it's been vacant for a long time. It roughly cost us the equivalent of one teacher's salary to maintain our vacant properties. And $450,000 would pay conservatively 6 or 7 teachers in this district for a year. Maybe, if they're all first-year teachers, 10. That's a huge deal for a district that struggles to attract teachers because we don't pay as much as some of the bigger districts. Staff members because we don't pay as much. And the reality is, this community needs families. Every school, both districts in this community have declining enrollment because families aren't moving into Redford Union. However, I don't want to look at something ugly. I'm sure my neighbors don't want to look at something ugly. I promise you, I will fight for our neighborhood and make sure that it is not, we don't have to sell this property. We just want to know what, nobody has decided to sell this property, but we would not be good stewards of this district if we didn't explore the potential for this property and our other vacant properties.
And just to roughly put it into perspective, for every new student we're able to bring into our district, thanks to action by the legislature that from my view is long overdue, but they have been, thankfully to the legislature and the governor as well in conjunction. They worked hard this year, and the per pupil foundation that we receive as a district is starting to creep up a little bit. So roughly now it's about $9,000, just a little upwards of $9,000 per pupil that we're able to bring in for every student that we are able to bring into the district, whether that's a resident student or even through the schools of choice process that we operate as well. And again, that was one of the goals as we work through this bond project, is to upgrade our facilities, that realizing the footprint that our enrollment needs and our enrollment trends show, and be able to offer much improved facilities for the benefit of all of our students.
I feel that you have spoken well on the subject and look forward to the proposal.
You need to know how passionate I am about this project, particularly, but just the success of this.
And just for the benefit of the people on the road, down the road, at the tail end of this bond project, there's a chance that, again, because of our enrollment trends, because of our staff numbers, because of the programs we're able to operate within the other buildings, there's a good chance that there will be 2 other vacant properties at the end of this bond project that aren't being used to provide student services in any fashion, and still providing services for our students, very good services and programs that matter for them within our existing buildings that are left. So down the road, there's likely that Stuckey would be a property and building that really doesn't have a specific student-focused service at the end of this bond project, and the same thing with B-Beck. So just to offer that longer-term perspective as well.
That's consistent, I think, with the strategic plan, plus the bond plan, plus the real estate discussions we had in 2019, 2020 leading up to the bond. Just the timing, so.
I think it's important to note too that we are on record the largest landowner in the township. Redford Union Schools owns more land in this township than anybody else. We've talked for many years. Our past superintendent spoke about this, and as a board, we spoke about right-sizing this district. And so that's what we're trying to get. Change is hard. It's not always comfortable. But sometimes change is good. And sometimes change isn't.
And for anyone who wasn't here early on, a representative of a group of district representatives that included our Plant Moran partners also did meet with the township recently within the last 2 weeks. And they were well aware of what what we're looking at and considering doing, both with this parcel potentially and with the other parcels. And they couldn't be happier that we're looking and having conversations with them, because simultaneously right now, and if you're Redford Township residents, you probably are aware, the township is looking at a lot of things as well, and they're eager to have discussions with us about what their vision is as a township and how any redevelopment might fit within that and what they're considering doing, as well as discussions with South Redford School Districts as well.
So again, we'll be giving updates to the administration team. I'm sure they'll be incorporating the board update memos. We'll probably say the late September board meeting, we'll just put on our calendar to, even if it's a 5-minute, hey, we got respondents back from X amount of developers, and then we'll talk about timing next steps, and then leading up to that.
So for scheduling purposes, I need about 10 days notice because I don't work a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job. And I had to actually do some enabling to do this, so.
I would appreciate, yeah.
Keep
Absolutely.
that in mind. I was like, what?
All right, so, thank you. Yep.
Right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, P-Love. Good to see you again.
Evelyn, are you taking names? Are you guys
Front
taking
naked.
names for the,
Yeah, there's a sheet here